So yesterday, a very prominent figure in the black community died, Nipsey Hussle. If you don't know him, search him up. And Nipsey Hussle is a prominent figure in the black community for very good reasons. He's not famous for flashing. He's famous for being an intelligent man with a unique perspective on society. Now, obviously, stuff like this should not be happening. People like Nipsey Hussle are essential in this race. So as a nod to Nipsey Hussle, I'd like to speak on some of the concepts that he was very adamant in sharing in his lifetime. Today is April 1st, 2019, and what Tita wanted to talk about today was black people. So when I say I want to speak about black people, I want to speak about black people as a whole in America and the unique position that we find ourselves in. In America, there's very few demographics. There's probably only one demographic in America that is completely exempt to any sort of oppression or any sort of alienation, and I would say that's obviously heterosexual white men. Every other demographic experiences some sort of alienation, whether it's black people, Hispanic people, Asian people. Everybody receives some sort of alienation in this country, even white women. The reason heterosexual white men are not susceptible to this sort of oppression is because at the end of the day, they are the people in position of power. They're not affected by the certain stereotypes or certain narratives that people are painting for them because they have the ability to create their own narratives for their own life. That is impossible for other demographics to create narratives for themselves because the world has preconceived notions on them. Why do they have preconceived notions on them? Because people are, that's just how society works, you know what I mean? But of all these demographics, I want to focus specifically on black people. Black people find themselves in the most peculiar situation in this country because they cannot claim anything to themselves, because our ancestors, if they were in this country, were not able to establish some sort of wealth, some sort of inheritance for future generations to come. It's hard for you to maneuver in society today because you did not have the tools and the foundation to build off of anything. You're starting from scratch, a lot of us. You have no blueprint. You have nobody in your family line that you can look to and be like, this is how it's done. I can follow this path. And society has created this narrative that college is the best route to success. College is the best route to guarantee financial freedom, which is a complete hoax because we put ourselves in debt with student loan. But I digress. Black people are definitely behind when it comes to tangible assets in this country. A lot of black people don't own property. A lot of black people are in debt. A lot of black people don't have any sort of business to call their own, any sort of business that they can hand down to their children. If you work a job, you can't die and your child inherit your position at your job. So we don't really have much to be handing down. So black people are behind in this country with tangible assets such as land or money, but black people are also behind in this country ideologically. Ideologically. Black people are also behind in this country ideologically because we are forced into systems that are designed for us to fail. And when we do fail, we're told to work harder, or that we're not trying hard enough, or that it just wasn't meant to be, and that the world is hard. But essentially, the world isn't as hard for everyone else as it is for certain black people. You have a very rich country, and you have a very rich country with very poor people inside of it, which in itself is the most uncomfortable situation because you know there's all this wealth out there, you know there's this comfortability out there, yet we struggle, yet we don't get a taste of any of that comfortability. We're always on our toes and we're always stepping on eggshells because we don't know when's the next moment someone might point a gun at us, or someone might stereotype us, or someone might not give us a job just because they don't like us. Black people are forced to believe ideologies of capitalism and competition when I believe the black community should be focusing on unity and cooperation and collaboration rather than competition. But back to my point, I feel like black people really endorse this idea of capitalism and competition instead of collaboration and unity because we are behind as a whole. So focusing on being a hyper independent individual is not necessarily beneficial to the community that you grew up in and the community that should be supporting you. I think it's counterproductive and ultimately counterintuitive when I see rappers promoting ideas of drug abuse or wasteful spending of money. We should not be like that. Like Nipsey Hussle, I think, was a perfect example of a person who promoted ideas of substance rather than just fuck that bitch, fuck that nigga, get this money, do whatever I want. We need to do better of being more tolerable in our community, because not every black person is going to be the same. There is no definition to being a black person. There is no definition of any of this. We're all people at the end of the day who have their own interests, their own agendas, and their own focuses. So nobody should be judged and put in a box. Love for our people means being willing to struggle around the contradictions that we embody ourselves. In the black community, it's very counterproductive when I see people shitting on other people for not having designer clothes, or shitting on people for not being as cool as you, because at the end of the day, we need each other. Like, there's no one definition to us. Like, you're trying to create an elitist society when we should be embracing diversity. So I think the best way to go about this is to start loving ourselves. And I know that sounds cliche as fuck, but we gotta love ourselves before we love anything else. We gotta love each other before we love anything else. We gotta love our friends, our family, our other fellow black people before we start loving clothes and money and this lifestyle that isn't really helpful to anything. Like, you may think it's all fun and games, but there's real shit going on in the world that, like, that ass matters. Because what kind of world are you bringing your child into? What kind of world do you want? Before Martin Luther King died, he was quoted saying he felt like he led black people into a burning building. And I think that's very profound, and I think that's very poignant, because we are in a situation that is destined for us to fail, and it is gonna collapse on top of us. We cannot be content with where we are in this country because certain individuals can create opportunities themselves. Until every black person can create an opportunity for themselves, then we can be celebrating.
I don't see the answer to our problem in riots. So my slogan is not burn, baby, burn. My slogan is build, baby, build. Organize, baby, organize. Learn, baby, learn, so that you can earn, baby, earn. That's my slogan.
She said, something ain't right. I said, oh man. She said, oh man, the building is on fire. I said, no, what? I got my 3 kids and we bounced out. We ain't gonna be in no fire, not today.